Okay, well, I came up through commercials. And at a certain point in commercials, when you get ready to do the larger commercials, those are union jobs. And like I said, like I was saying earlier in our pre-interview, it was a conscious decision. I am now ready to do the union work. I had been losing some work. It financially made sense to me. I was having opportunities in those areas. And so at that point it becomes, I don't want to say a no-brainer because it's a commitment, it's a step, but it becomes the right thing to do. Well, it opens up in a couple different ways. One, all of a sudden, it becomes you're doing that level of work. In commercials, all of a sudden that was a step up in budget. It was a step up in production companies. The work itself gets better. Your crews. As a director of photography, there becomes, even though a lot of times, even in non-union jobs, you'll be working with union people in non-union positions, all of a sudden you've taken a step in your career at that point. And, so it's a matter of, I would say, respect with the crews. There tends to be, even from vendors, a little more access. You become that much more real. And all of a sudden, if you need to get a hold of things at Sony or Arri, it's just a little bit easier. Well, that bigger world, it was really, that world shaped for me my role within the Camera Guild right now. My current role within the Camera Guild is to scout new technology, help the technology develop in a way that it works for the working artists and the technicians on the set. In other words, engineers build stuff. This is what engineers do. It is up to the artists and the technicians to help the engineers build what we need. And then it is also nurturing the use of this new technology so that in the previous 120 years of filmmaking, we've learned some things. And the stuff that's very cool that we've learned shouldn't get thrown out just because we're adding new stuff to it. It should all work together in a continuum. One of the things that I've been very, very active with is drones. Well, the way I shape drones is that in the 1950s, movies had a look. And part of the reason that they looked that way is that cameras weighed 135, 165 pounds. And there was only so much you could do. All of a sudden, with Aeroflex and Panavision, they came out with smaller cameras. All of a sudden, we could go on location and we could do movies like, oh, come on, the motorcycle, Easy Rider is what I was trying to think of. One of the first, there started to be these location things to where we could move around that brought a different kind of story to filmmaking because now we could do different stories. All of a sudden, then with these smaller, lighter cameras, you fast forward a few years, you have the early development of the Steadicam. And the Steadicam, all of a sudden, now we could start to move the camera in new, different ways. And it was a very short period of time before directors like Stanley Kubrick started to realize that, hey, now I can tell a story in a different way, and it opens up new kinds of storytelling, new kinds of scripts that can be shot and done. My view really is drones is like the next step in Steadicam. All of a sudden, things became smaller, they became lighter. We had noticed, I was at IBC with our president, Stephen Poster, in 2012. We noticed drones, really there for the first time. And it's kind of like, these aren't ready, but they're getting ready. This is close. And, working with a drone, it's like giving Harry Potter a camera. because all of a sudden the space from just 3 feet above the ground to 200 feet above the ground now is open cinematography space that we can work with quickly, fairly cost effectively, and very spontaneously. It isn't like with the bigger wire and cable rigs and these sorts of things. A lot of planning would go into a shot. Whereas with drones, all of a sudden you can put it in the air, you can start exploring what it is that you're going to shoot. And it's a pretty cool craft to watch, because between the pilot and the camera operator, they're dance teams. It's like Fred and Ginger. And as I watch pilots work just like Steadicam operators, as a director of photography. And I don't mean to just kind of like carry on here, but as a director of photography, working with a Steadicam operator, I would not get macro. The shot description would be like, okay, because I'm busy lighting too. So the shot description is, look, I need to lead the people up here. They're having their conversation. I need them to cross between the cars here, go up to the front porch, and I want to see the street in the background at the end of the shot. At that point, the Steadicam operator cuts loose, and they have all of these very macro decisions they're making. Let's see, how far apart are the people going to be? How close are we going to be to the cars? As they walk through the move with the talent, when they go to turn, they may instruct the talent, hey, do kind of a false step here because I need some time to swivel. They look at transpo and they say, these cars are too close together. I need these two cars moved. And then they get up to the porch and they're looking at, okay, well, they're positioning, getting marks set for the talent there. They look around and they'll tell greens, hey, could you have a planter or something you can put over here? Because I want to see something in this part of the frame. The Steadicam operator is doing a lot. Drone pilots and together with their camera operators are doing the same kind of very macro work when they're figuring out the shot. It isn't a loss of power. This is a collaborative medium. The director and the cinematographer, and through the cinematographer, the camera operators, all work together as a creative team. The camera operators, or like in a drone, the pilot and camera operator team are supporting the director of photography's intent. And they're all working together with the director. As a camera operator on larger films, I would have cinematographers that would say, look, I'm really busy lighting this next big scene. You guys, there's a conversation over here, you know what I like, set up a couple shots, you go on a 35, you go on a 50, and I'll be back, show me something. And this is the nature of creativity. There is trust involved there. So they all work together. And when you get something like drones, a director isn't necessarily going to know exactly what the equipment is capable of. And they're going to say, hey, I envision this. And part of the creative challenge to the drone team then is how close can they come to that vision? How well can they do that? Or if they have some alternatives, one of the ideal situations when working is to be able to say, okay, here's the shot that you described. I also had an idea. Can I show that to you? And maybe you're going to do a different shot or two, to add to it. And these would be things that just because of a director's more limited experience with the gear, it wouldn't occur to them. We're in a new era of imaging. And all of a sudden, describing something as a big camera or a small camera is not necessarily a valid description. And so, I would say from a union's position, a union perspective, does it have a lens? Is it a camera? And if it's a camera that is being used to tell the story on a union set, or, you know, and that also stretches into still photography, et cetera, then it's part of what the Guild is going to be concerned with. We don't even give it different titles. It's a camera operator, it's a director of photography. You know, again, like Steadicam, you know, there isn't like, oh, you look at Guild documents, it isn't like, oh, there's a special slot for a Steadicam. It's a camera operator. And so the way we describe drones is a drone can be 2 camera operators or a director of photography and a camera operator. It depends upon, you know, how they're working. Like I said, like Steadicam, this is a new cinematography. This is a new technique within cinematography. The best way to describe it, let's think of these things in terms of vernaculars, in terms of languages. There's a language of the lockdown camera. There's the language of the camera on the dolly. There's the language of the Steadicam. Drone is a new vernacular in the language of cinematography, and it's going to be used that way. I think that you know, it's going to start to become more and more ubiquitous on the sets, and I think that we're already starting to see some episodics where they are carrying a drone. And, you know, there are people that are just part of the camera crew that are qualified drone people, and when a drone shot comes up, they pull it out of the truck. Now typically, because of permitting and, you know, all of the FAA stuff, you know, they'll tend to, you know, give the person time to do that before the day of the shoot. You can't just, oh, pull out a drone, you know, it isn't like, you know, let's change lenses. There is planning involved here, but so production has to give people a chance to do that, but it's becoming a standard part of their work. They're working on it, and it's a very big, interesting problem for the FAA, because drones is a big world. As cinematography, we are a small corner of that world. The big players are agriculture, their infrastructure, inspection, their mapping. But our work is really unique, you know, on a set, because what we're doing is extremely demanding flying. We do it under a great deal of pressure, and we do it very close to human beings. And this requires an entirely different level of skill than, let's say, flying a pattern over a field of soybeans. You know, it's an entirely different thing. And I think one of the things that really speaks to the quality of the work that pilots are executing on motion picture sets as part of the NASA FAA UTM talks. They opened up, well, actually, they just opened it up yesterday with one of our reels of, you know, it's 4 minutes of different shots from the Cinematographers Guild. And NASA's got some pretty good pilots. There are some people there that NASA test pilots, you know, they're pretty good. And they watched this reel, and it was interesting because 3 pilots sitting over here, and they're like, wow, you know, looking at the quality of the flying, and they really respected, you know, the work, the skill, the understanding of air currents and how to handle a craft that went into that shot. And, you know, and it's interesting to get like respect from that kind of level of flying person. And I think that really says something then again for, you know, the people doing the work, that it's kind of like, no, you guys, you really are good. There is a whole lot that is going on there. Again, let's go back to the idea that we're doing complex work under a great deal of pressure, very close to human beings. One of the ways of thinking about a drone, I can talk about it as a magic flying camera, a Harry Potter with a camera. These are all like really nice statements. Another thing that you can say about a drone is that it's a Cuisinart flying over the set, and when it's not working, it's a brick that flies over the set. So the Guild has been very, very active. We worked with contract services. We came up with Safety Bulletin number 36 and helped develop the supplement 36B. That needs reshape now for Part 107, but that was a basis, and that's done in conjunction with Studio and IATSE Safety, et cetera. That's that whole group. We've been having, we just finished a series of dialogues with where we had the MPAA, the FAA, California State Film Commission, Film LA, IATSE Safety, all in the same room talking about how do we do film permits? How does this work? What is going to be required by cities in terms of insurance levels? How about the age of pilots? And we came up with a whole list of things that the industry would like to see. Now, the state agencies, this is all evolving. They're at the stage where they're back talking to their legal departments, trying to discover, can we actually put this as a state requirement or not? Local 600 is also looking at working with the Entertainment Training and Safety Council to come up with a baseline operational standard for drones on the set, which would be, your basic. If you're going to be a helicopter operator, there's a set of rules that are followed for using helicopters in motion pictures. And so, our next step is going to be developing this very same set of rules. It is a work in progress.
Yeah.
There are all of these things where I'm talking about, well, this is what we've done. We've got these other things. And one of the things that you run into is that, the world of regulations, safety standards, all of these things move slowly. This is stuff, a lot of people have to look at it. There end up being legal implications, and so the people who know how to evaluate that stuff have to evaluate it, and then, you get feedback from them, and all of a sudden, it was just like in a safety bulletin, there were a few afternoons of sitting with the studios discussing shall, should, would, could, where does the comma go? And this is all turns into like really important stuff, and it's, it's a process, and so I think that we're, still looking at another year and a half, 2 years of all of this stuff getting landed, getting it brought in, but, we're treating it, it's being treated seriously by the industry. They're taking a look at it, and so, it's going to evolve very quickly.